Teguh mendukung harapan agung negara, penyahu seruan wawasan negara, unggul di mata dunia. Langkah seiring mengejar cita di hari muka, kan terus maju bersama menuju cahaya ketulusan jiwa, semangat berusaha, unggul di mata dunia. Ke puncak menara dituju, keunggulan cita yang luhur, melangkah kita bersama, bersatu, bersinar permata negara, dikagumi seratannya, selamanya akan gemilang di persada dunia multimedia. Langkah seiring mengejar cita di hari muka, kan terus maju bersama menuju cahaya ketulusan jiwa, semangat berusaha, unggul di mata dunia. Ke puncak menara dituju, keunggulan cita yang luhur, melangkah kita bersama, bersatu, bersinar permata negara, dikagumi seratannya, selamanya dan gemilang di persada dunia multimedia. Terunggu di mata dunia.
Hello everyone, today is the 28th of July, which means that today marks the 4th year anniversary of the release of the Emoji movie. And what better way to celebrate this historical event by talking to one of our alumni. Hello everyone, welcome to the second season 6 episode of Alumni Vibes, a show where we talk to our alumni and vibing, which I'm still a little bit mad because they should have called alum vibes. Like it's right there anyway. I'm your moderator for today. My name is Zen, and thank you all of you for watching. If you're watching this, that means that you're either on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. So if you can, please leave a like, subscribe, share, follow us on TikTok. I don't know if MMU has one, but yeah. So thank you all of you guys for your support. And now we will roll the intro.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Today's episode is brought to you by FCA. FCA, because you can't spell Faculty of Cinematic Arts without CHENG. So, today we're going to talk about YouTube or, web media, new media. I bet that people who are watching right now may have an interest of going into YouTube and become so-called a YouTuber or a content creator. But the question is, how should I start it? what kind of problems that I will face if we go into this industry, and most importantly, how can you make money out of it? So today we will discuss a lot of questions, but today we're going to discuss them one by one, and we can't do that without our very, very special guest for today. He is a YouTuber, a full-time YouTuber with 8 years of experience, with 140,000 subscribers, have collaborated with major companies such as Apple, Sony, Fujifilm, Aperture, the list goes on. He's also, most importantly, he is one of the recipients for President's Choice Award. And another thing that's very, very important, that he's also my lighting lecturer. So please put your hands together, give a warm welcome live from a black void, is ZHENG. Yay!
Hello, Zen. Thank you so much for that overly flattering intro. I appreciate it, though. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for coming here for today. So
nice to see everyone again.
Yeah. It's nice to see a human again, I would say. So my first question to you right now is, how are you feeling? How are you feeling, like, with this everything, actually?
It's a tricky question to ask now, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it?
Well, I've lost count of like the number of days, and certainly it's not the happiest time in the world, but I'm thankful to be in the web media industry, because I know there's a lot of businesses that are just completely destroyed by the pandemic. And I wouldn't say that YouTubers are completely unaffected by it at all, but I would say that it's probably one of the least affected industries. And for that, I'm very thankful for it.
Interesting. Does it affect you specifically, because you're working in web media, and sometimes web media can be affected by COVID depending on the content itself. So because you're doing tech reviews, does it affect you as much as other channels?
Particular case, because there's a lot of indoor shooting. Even before COVID, I've been shooting a lot in my own space, doing post in my own space. So in terms of the actual production of content, I'd say it's probably just a mere inconvenience that we can't shoot outdoors. But I guess where it really makes a difference is when you have to basically meet with brands. The networking has taken a hit. Well, we traditionally used to go to trade shows and we would attend product launches, and you would have a lot of face-to-face interaction with brand representatives, and it's easier to build connections that way. But nowadays, well, having to do it all over video is one thing. That's more like maintaining relationships with people that you already know. It's very hard to meet new brands. The outreach is very difficult these days. And just because everyone's been at home for so long, it just kind of made everyone just sort of depressed. It's plunged everything into this like foggy void. Like nobody really has the mood to do anything anymore. So in that sense as well, it's harder to build people relations. I'm sure everyone can relate to that to some degree.
Even for me, because I study in a university where the course is very focused on meeting with people. So
right.
the
Morale's
fact that,
gonna hit.
Yeah, for that, just that takeaway, just that the whole thing just been taken away because of COVID, it's just, I totally feel you. So
Absolutely.
So right now we're going to talk a little bit about web media, but first we're just gonna talk a little bit about you, because I find it interesting that because you study in a film school, right? You study in MMU, you study in FCA. You like I said just now, you're a recipient for President's Choice Award, which is a big deal. And I would bet that a lot of companies will really want you to be on their team. And after graduation, and you just went into YouTube. You just straight jump into YouTube and just like, nope, I'm just gonna do YouTube instead. So it's like from your experience, based on that experience, is it like difficult to jump into that platform instantly, or is it something that you have been considered for quite a long time?
Well, Zen, I think that's a very polite way to ask, why aren't you in Hollywood right now?
I don't want to be the villain in the story.
It's okay. I completely understand. Right. I have a degree in cinematic arts. And after all those classes and advanced production, script writing, cinematography, I'm like, okay, what made me think that, you know what, after all that, I'm perfectly happy with uploading videos onto the internet. I've had my fair share of time in the film industry, and it's a lot of fun, actually. It's not to say I won't ever step back onto a film set ever again, but for me, at least, I think this YouTube thing, It was a very difficult decision, actually, because even before I graduated, I was getting job offers left and right. They were like, okay, during my internships, for example, people were telling me, hey, the moment you finish your studies, give me a call. I'll guarantee you a spot on my film set. And I was very optimistic that time. Like, okay, hooray, I've got a nice steady job in the film industry. But I've also had, at that point, I already started building my YouTube channel and I had this thing going on already. Ultimately, what brought me to choose this path over the other, if you've seen Loki, it's I don't know, is the TVA gonna jump on me?
I heard of that show. I don't know, is it by Marvel or something? I'm not sure.
But ultimately, I think it's the opportunities that the stream is offering me is something I would prefer over, say, being a camera assistant on a film set. Again, like I said, it's not to say I won't ever step foot on a film set again, but at the moment, it's very exciting because being a tech reviewer and specializing in cameras, you work with a lot of brands directly. Now, it's very important that I say work with and not for. It's a very collaborative relationship. And sometimes the best part of the job is you would get sometimes products that are not even released to the public yet. You would be sort of in the avant-garde, on the forefront of where the tech industry is. You get to see things people have never seen before. You have to sign a lot of secrecy agreements, non-disclosure agreements, and it's a lot of fun. Basically, getting to like get a look behind the curtain, what it's like behind the scenes, and to that, I can only say that it's a privilege not many people have, and I certainly don't take it for granted. But it's just a lot of fun, and it's very exciting.
Okay, so is this like a low-key advertisement to YouTube?
I mean, not necessarily. It's we all start from the same point. A lot of people ask me, how do you become a YouTuber? I was jokingly start, well, the first thing you got to do is you got to go to youtube.com and you got to create an account. And that's exactly how I started, though. It sounds so sarcastic, but that's exactly how I started. I just decided to upload videos one day, and it snowballed into all this.
Right, I thought you were going to say, oh, first you got to go to film school. You have to learn the screenwriting. Yeah.
Going to film school will give you a very unfair advantage. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is the perfect way to segue to talking about film school a little bit because again, we both went to film school, and it's interesting that by going into film school, your quality when it comes to releasing content on YouTube may or may not have a. You may have what I'm saying is that you may have a slight advantage when you go into YouTube. You're going to go to when you go to film school and then jump into YouTube. So my question to you right now is like, what do you think that going into film school, like what kind of advantages that you will gain from film school when you jump into YouTube and realize, oh, I learned this in film school, I can just do that,
Sure. It's almost like a meme being a YouTuber after going to film school, because in film school, we always talk about cinema and how cinema is the ultimate art form. And we always make fun of web media being like lazy content, vertical video that you shoot on your phones and like no post-production, very not finessed and all that. But they actually share a lot of similarities. This web media and cinema, ultimately, it's still visual language. You're still looking at moving pictures. So a lot of the core fundamentals still applies. I think the biggest difference, aside from, say, format of content, is the investment of the audience. Because when you watch a movie, you've sort of already made up your mind that you want to commit the 90 minutes or so into that movie. But for web content, it's almost like free for all. Like, I have no obligation to stay on a certain piece of content. I don't have to watch it if I don't want to. I can stop at any time. I can fast forward. I can skip. That's not the case with cinema. And with that taken into account, like if I draw an analogy, it's kind of like cinema, like films, is sort of like fine dining when it comes to restaurants, and what media is sort of like fast food. That's one way to think about it. But going to film school, after you learn, well, if you, like Zen, you're an FCA student, you would know, when the moment you step into FCA, the first thing we drill into everyone's brains is story is everything. And
story, emotion, yeah.
It offends some of the more techie, geeky kind of people, especially those who are interested in like the more technical departments. It's like, no, it can't all be about story. You need microphones and great lenses and whatnot. Well, to that I say, why not both, right? But you still, at the end of the day, it's visual storytelling. Everything serves the story. So all that storytelling education has really like opened this rabbit hole, this Pandora's box into what's possible with a camera and a microphone. Say, for example, no story is complete without some sort of conflict. If your story has no conflict, I don't think you can really call it a story. There has to be some sort of problem for you to solve. Speaking of problems, it's also one of the most powerful storytelling tools, because the moment you introduce a problem, you create a desire in the audience. The audience wants to know what is the outcome of that. How do you solve the problem? So if anyone of you watching right now came into the stream with questions, with problems, make sure you ask them so we answer them. Yeah, I'm digressing a bit here, but again, it links back to storytelling. If there's a problem, you get your audience invested because they want to see the outcome of it. Conflict creates desire. So that is one of the core theories, core theories that I picked up in film school. So even though I'm reviewing products, say a camera, for instance, there's no story there, right? You say, it has this many megapixels, it takes this batteries, it has 2 card slots, blah, 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 blah. Very linear, very boring. But I would say after going to film school, there's a story in pretty much everything. Take, for example, this is one of my most recent videos. It's the Fujifilm X Pro 3 camera. So I'm reviewing a camera. So I have to look for a story on this. And there's something very interesting about this camera, because this is a very expensive camera and it's one of their highest end cameras. But it was designed in a way that is very inconvenient for the user. The main screen is hidden, tucked away on the inside. It almost doesn't make sense. When you put everything in place, the screen is hidden away from you. So to me, that's sort of like an interesting conflict. It's an expensive high-end camera that was intentionally designed to be slow and inconvenient. So that, in a sense, already creates a sense of conflict that makes the audience go, wait, that doesn't make sense. Why? And then that gets them invested. That's the power of storytelling, in my opinion. You can inject a story into pretty much everything you do, and it makes it so much more interesting.
So even though that, let's say that your channel is focusing on tech, it's just facts, you can still make a story inside this whole list of facts, right?
Yeah, be dramatic, create drama.
Yeah, create drama. I need the blood coming out. Yeah, and now that you say it, right? But again, in MMU, right, we're really focusing a lot of story, so it does affect in in, let's say, on our storytelling when we're making our videos, right? But do you, in your personal opinion, right, do you find any differences between, let's say, the film, the high-end one, and the fast food that is web media?
Well, definitely there are quite a number of differences. It's arguably we're blurring the line here, because web media, like the streaming services, we're talking about Netflix, Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, that's kind of a subset of web media now. It's part of the web media family. And that's really bringing some of the production values that we've previously only seen in cinema to this web streaming platform. Well, that's professionally generated content. Back in the early days, there was a lot less of that. These professionally made content was more from broadcast media side. But nowadays, there's this great ecosystem that coexists both pro content and user-generated content. And I think that's one of the more unique parts about web media, is how real and raw it is, because everybody has access to it. Everyone can create a YouTube account and everyone can just upload. YouTube's motto used to be broadcast yourself. I don't know why they ditched away that. I really like that. But it's almost like, I'm not sure. When you go to film school, you study a lot of film movements, and sometimes you wonder if YouTube is going to become a film movement, say 30, 50 years down the road. But it very much reminds me of Italian neorealism. That's when people just wanted to keep things as real as possible. And nowadays, YouTube is a lot about documenting everyone's daily lives. But arguably, when it reaches a scale like this, we start scripting and planning our content. So it's a lot less neorealistic in that sense, if you get what I mean. It's a lot of back and forth, and a lot of things come full circle, especially with audience consumption habits. In the early days of web media, say back in the days when YouTube just started, 2005, 6-ish, kind of, don't quote me on that. It's probably around that time. Give it a
I think
years.
you're right. I think you're right.
But back then, it was a lot of content on demand because everyone was so used to traditional broadcast media. We would turn on the TV and whatever was showing, we would watch it. The most amount of freedom we had was to switch channels. And at that time, it was like, oh, we have video on demand on web media. I can literally search for whatever I want. So at that time, that was the audience habit. Now it's sort of coming full circle again. It's almost like we're tired of looking for our own content and we're just sort of leaving the choice to the algorithms, the artificial intelligence, the serving algorithms. You just start scrolling and you see what they have to offer. I'm not too sure how you consume YouTube, Zen, but back then, it used to be a lot on subscription feeds. I would go to the subscription feeds and see who I've subscribed to, or I open up YouTube and I know there's a particular kind of video that I want to watch, and I will search for that, and I will look for a piece of content that I want to watch. But nowadays, I just go to the home page, the YouTube Discover page, and just keep scrolling until something interests me, and then I watch that. And after I watch that, I'll see what's on offer, and I go to that. Not sure if that's how you consume content, but I find it really interesting that it's kind of come full circle to being spoon-fed content, to being, okay, I'm going to start looking for my own content. And now we're going back to, I like being spoon-fed content again.
Yeah, I find that very interesting in the sense that because now that the way that we consume like content is now very like what you said, spoon-fed, that means from the content creator side, it's kind of difficult because now instead of knowing that people will come to you, now you have to fight the algorithm and hoping that you will be on the first page and the people would hopefully watch your video. So from like, my question to you is like, is it difficult to like say fight the algorithm, or you just want to do whatever you want and then just hopefully people will watch? And doing that, does that cause any troubles like something like burnout for you in a sense?
It creates a huge creative dilemma. That is for sure. Because like you mentioned, the algorithm is basically, everybody keeps saying the algorithm like it's some mysterious beast. To some extent it is, but it's essentially trying to decipher what the audience wants. It's always said the algorithm follows the audience, and it's quite simple. If there's a lot of demand for a certain type of content, obviously a platform like YouTube will want more of that content. They want to encourage that source of content. And what that means to you as a YouTube creator is trying to find that balance between what you want to make and what the audience wants to see. Because sometimes what you want to make might not be of particular interest to the mass audience, which would affect the performance of your video and your channel. You can make something that's quite trending and a lot of people would watch it, but you might not feel so rewarded by it because it's not really something that fulfills you creatively. And that's something we're always constantly struggling to balance. Say, for example, you really, really, really enjoy, you really enjoy basket weaving. You like weaving baskets. And you make a lot of videos on weaving baskets. Maybe you'll attract a few people who have the same interests, but it's not going to go viral, so to say, as opposed to say, if you made a video about the Olympics right now, that's going to be of a lot of interest to a lot of people at the moment, but maybe you're not that interested into sports, or maybe you weren't that invested in the Olympics to begin with. So it's trying to find that balance always. I would say don't go to either extreme. Try to either find a middle ground or try to hop back and forth.
Yeah, not the way that you say, I kind of agree in the sense that, if let's say that you do too much on one side, you may, cause yourself to burn out a lot. So, maybe jump back and forth or like do something. Yeah, very much like filmmaking. I want to know that. You
want to make a movie that makes big bucks, huge money, huge box offices, or do you really want to make that movie, that script that you've always wanted to make, but for sure it's not going to be the next blockbuster film.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. All right. So right now, what time is it? It's ad time. So we're gonna go on a commercial break. But before that, if you just now what Z said, if you have any questions, that you wanted to ask us during the stream, you can just comment on the Facebook Live, or if you're on YouTube, just comment on YouTube. Yeah, we will answer them. We will be gladly to answer them after at the end of the show. So let the questions run in. In the meantime, we will cut to commercial, and we will see you after these messages.
Hi, my name is Wong I graduated from MMU in the year 2008 from the Faculty of Engineering and Technology. Currently, I'm working as a software engineer in Netizen testing. As a software engineer, I am in charge of all the back-end and front-end development of all the projects that comes into Netizen testing.
Today, I'm very happy to be here. Happy to see some of our alumni here today as well. So, as you can see from this particular picture, this was me on the first day in MMU back in February 2010. This picture, in fact, was taken 11 years ago. Well, today I'll be happy to share with you some of the major throwback of how a millennial like me spent my last 11 years discovering myself, transitioning from being a young student to a young adult, climbing the corporate ladder, and what are some of the important lessons that I've actually learned along the way. I'm currently with the strategic partnership team with the bank, where I'm in charge in helping the bank to acquire new-to-bank customers through a partnership ecosystem, helping the bank to actually develop value propositions for our products through our partnership with our strategic partners. Being in the 8th year of the bank, obviously there will be questions from my colleagues as well. Wei Yao, are you happy in what you are doing? But what is actually the definition of happiness? You see, in Malaysian, in the Asian culture, there's always this particular formula of success, which is you have to work hard. If you work hard, you will achieve success. And if you achieve success, you will be happy.
Wonder how fast intelligent machines run on 5G? At MMU, you'll find the answer. Wonder how creative content and online businesses are mastered? At MMU, you'll find the answer. Wonder how cybersecurity and law function? At MMU, you'll find the answer. Find out all these and many more at Multimedia University, because MMU is you, leading the digital future. Visit mmu.edu.my.
We're back on the show. Thank you so much for still joining us. So right now in this section that we were going to go through a little bit something we call a showcase. This is the part where Z will give us a little bit of studio tour. What does the black void look like? And then see at the same time we will have a brief process to show you guys on how does usually how a YouTuber works. So I'm gonna pass it to you now, Z.
I like the Black Void, the name that we give my studio.
Yeah, that's your official name now.
You know what's nerve-wracking about these kind of live streams?
What?
Is you sort of know how many people are watching, but you don't know exactly who's watching. So I'm going to say hello to everyone watching, and it would be a little rude if you don't reply hello in the comments. So leave a digital footprint so we know who's watching.
At this point, you're better moderator. yeah. Anyone, if you dare say hello or hi, just to make a crowd.
Okay, so Zen, I think you're kind of curious what's going on around here.
Yeah.
Come on, you were a filmmaker, and you know that everything out of frame, like everything in frame, is like nice and tidy. The moment you exit this frame, it's pure chaos. But it's okay. You guys asked for it. I'm gonna show you guys anyway. So let me.
This is what we want. We want to see the chaos.
Wireless for a moment. Behind here, I actually have a camera set up. So I'm gonna pick it up. And I can cut to this camera so you guys can see what's going on out here. So this is what I'm looking at right now at the moment. This is the main set. So if I turn around, that's where all the audio is being driven. That's where the background light is. This is the props that we put out here in the background. This here is our camera. So this is what we were looking at. This is the main set. Now, if anyone's curious, we actually converted this whole room from a master bedroom. So it's nothing special, just very residential stuff. It's a master bedroom. And if you notice, we have almost nothing locked down. So the table can be freely moved. We have everything on wheels. That's the audio card. Our lights are on wheels. Our microphone's on wheels. This is the lens card. So the lens card is on wheels as well. Our monitor is also on wheels. So the idea is to have everything on wheels so that no matter where in this space you're working, you can always have the resources you need right beside you. You can just wheel it in, or if you need it to be out of frame, you can just wheel it out of frame very easily. That sort of sunsetty Venetian blinds you're looking there, that's not from the actual sun. It's like 4-something p.m. right now. That's coming from this. Let me put a light on that. It's coming from this projector mount.
Oh.
This,
oh.
yeah, you took my lighting class, and this would be of particular interest to you.
No, I'm just doing this. Yeah.
Is projecting this. There we go. And we have a secondary desk here. This is mostly to shoot our product cutaways. So we at least have one desk occupied, and we have another one to just shoot the close-ups and whatnot. Or sometimes, cleaning stuff here. Fun fact, our rocket blower is the thing that always gets lost in the studio. So we stuck an air tag on it to save us some time.
Oh, that's an air tag.
Sometimes we will put a camera here and do essentially what we call a talking head here as well. This is like the secondary set. So we have this very dynamic full depth view of the studio. And back here, if I turn this on, is where the post happens. I think I've seen this setup somewhere before. Can't nail it down. If there's anything you guys are interested to have a closer look on, do feel free to let me know. Yeah, this is the current setup. Talking to that mic. Usually for YouTube recording, we'll use that mic on top. We have some lights overhead. We have some lights shining onto the background there. There's the camera. There's the prompter. And we'll talk more about the prompter later on. But let me just take my seat again.
It's like the magic happens. Oh no, everything is ruined. The light's not real.
It's not that big of a set, but this is where we create. This is where we create.
I gotta say, it looks very professional, I would say.
Looks, keyword looks.
Yeah, like literally outside of it is just, oh, okay. Like that's where the whole magic happens. Yeah, interesting.
Magic happens in frame.
Yeah, interesting to know that, a lot of the stuff that you're having had a lot of wheels.
Yeah,
because you can
wheels
just
are good.
Yeah,
Everybody loves wheels.
Yeah, it seems that you can just wheel your wheel wherever you want.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you have a very dynamic space. You can always, like, the space is always changing. It's very easy to repurpose the space.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about prompters, because just now what you mentioned about, so basically because you need to do some tech reviews, so you have to put a prompter at you. And because on my class, because we have to do a lot of speech and so whatnot, my friends were like recommend me apps that just be a teleprompter. You can just read it from the camera. It's not that easy. So like from your perspective, right, is like teleprompter like useful, or like does it have any setbacks when you're using it?
Okay, the thing about prompters is, okay, I should probably explain what exactly is a teleprompter. So if I load up a prompter script here, right now I'm not using a prompter because you can't script a 1 hour conversation, but okay, what I've just done is I've put a script that's on my phone onto the prompter. And I'll just point this camera at the prompter so you can see what I'm looking at. There. So there is a semi-translucent piece of glass. Behind that glass is your camera lens. So you can see your script but the camera can't see it. What it looks like to the camera. So if I stare straight into the script, this is what it looks like. I'm making eye contact with the camera, but even though I'm staring straight into the camera, I'm seeing my script. So it's kind of like cheating, but it's kind of like cheating. Let me just put my camera back.
Wait, so does that mean that like is cheating good at this point?
Okay, here's the thing. If you ask most people who use prompters, they will tell you they hate using prompters, myself included. It's very convenient because you don't have to memorize everything. You're just reading, but that's the problem. You're just reading. So, okay, right now there's that script on there. I'm going to just read it. And what happens is you've scripted it. You know there's supposed to be emotion in it, but because when you're recording, you're still reading, it's so hard to get a good performance out of it. Like you have to purposely expend energy just to make it sound natural. Like here's what happens if I don't try. This is Fujifilm's $1,800 flagship X series camera. It's also deliberately designed to be slow and inconvenient. So what happens is I sound like a newscaster. Like I have to purposely read it, kind of buffer it in my head, come up with an emotion that I should deal with and go, this is Fujifilm's 1800 flagship X series camera. And if you're not good at it, it looks like you're trying to put on a really bad show, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So a teleprompter is a blessing and a curse because it takes the load off your brain, but by taking that load off your brain, it makes you look like a robot.
So that means that even if you're using a teleprompter, you can't just read it as simply as you reading it as it is. You also need to like prepare yourself as to what kind of emotion that you want to do.
That's the tricky thing about using a prompter. It's really hard unless you spend some energy. Like it still takes a lot of energy to use a prompter. And it only works if you fully script your videos. And at this point, that's what I do. That's part of my process already. After all that, you might just go, okay, that sounds like a terrible idea then to use a prompter. Then why not just not use it? Well, the thing is, it saves you a lot of time when you are recording, as opposed to not scripting it. Because, well, saving time during recording is one thing. You blow less takes, you spend less time fumbling on camera, and every minute recorded is money. Because when you're recording video, that storage has to go somewhere. You need memory cards, you need hard drives, you need to back it up. Your SSDs are expensive. So every time you record something, it costs money in storage. And if you keep fumbling, messing up in front of camera, you're ultimately going to spend more time in post-production trying to fix it. So by using a teleprompter as, well, it sounds a bit weird that I'm complaining about using a prompter like it's a bad thing. But that's the thing. The performance trade-off, the energy you have to expend to try and get a good performance out of reading point blank is worth the amount of time and storage that you save ultimately later on.
So there are good stuff, there are bad stuff in the end then.
Yeah, there's good and bad, and the good outweighs the bad a little bit in this sense.
Okay, before we cut the break, I want to ask you about, because, when we go into YouTube, again, we would sometimes miss one or two things, and then we would like, oh, I screw up from that point. So just for general, do you have any, let's say, tips and tricks for inspiring creators who wanted to go into YouTube for the first time?
Oh, yes. I think this is something very important to talk about. One of the first things you should make up your mind on is when you start creating, do you want to create something that is niche or something that appeals to the big general audience? Because it has some really big implications down the road. And this is something I certainly wish I knew before I started. So if you do something that's very niche, say not a lot of people are into, for example, cameras. Like if you say tech, that's quite general. Everybody does phones and electronics, but cameras nowadays, especially professional cameras, it's that small circle of people. And in that sense, there's less competition because there's less people making that content. So that would be a good thing for your discoverability. It's easier for you to get discovered because there's less noise drowning you out. And that also means that you would have a very specialized audience. Like your audience is very invested in the subject matter, as opposed to say, if you're a lifestyle channel, you appeal to pretty much everyone. Your audience is going to be quite fragmented, if that makes sense. Like everyone has different interests, but when you have an audience, all of them with the same amount of interest, you are of particular value, especially to brands, because you have basically their target audience in a bucket ready to serve. So in a sense, you won't get bigger numbers in terms of view counts and following. The scale is smaller, but you have more value. It's quality over quantity. Inversely, you could also go general. I'm not saying the only way to go forward is to go niche, but there's this misconception that you need hundreds of millions and billions of views on YouTube in order to be successful. But if you're going into a niche, you might make it worthwhile without having to blow those extremely disproportionate numbers, as opposed to say there's only a couple million people interested in a particular thing, then that's your ceiling. That's as big as your scale is going to get. But if you do something like gaming that appeals to a lot of people, even though there's more competition, there's a lot of people doing gaming content, it's harder to get discovered. But if you make it work, your scale, like there's a much bigger market out there. You can make up for that in numbers. So that's something to take into account. And ultimately, you have to know your audience. Who are you making it for? Sometimes you just make your content without caring who's on the receiving end. But once you know, like identify who you're making it for, you can tailor your content to make it even more effective. And finally, this is very, very important. This is something that took me so many years to understand, and that is to inject your personality into your videos. At first, I thought it was like this really serious thing. You're putting yourself out there on the internet. You have to be the best version of yourself. You have to be on your best behavior. Here's the thing. We always say content is king, right? Content is king. Content is king. You're so flustered about making sure you have the best content possible. Well, if content is king, then be a character. That's something that I did not learn until very far back. Be a character. That way, your audience is not only invested in your content, they're also invested in you. It's like, perfect analogy, friendships. Say you're really rich. All your friends are probably not your real friends because they are here for your money. They want to be friends with you because you're rich. The value they get out of you is free meals. Maybe they can borrow money from you, as opposed to say, maybe you're not very rich, but you're just a really nice person to be around. Then the value you offer to your friends is, well, your friendship. You are the value. They like being around you. So that applies very much to YouTube. Say if your content is very informative, but you deliver it like a robot, like a newscaster with no character, they're going to come for your content. Your value is basically the information that you offer in your videos. But if you are a very entertaining person to watch, then even though they might not be interested in, say, something you're talking about, say you review some earbuds and they don't care about earbuds, but because it's you making the video, they would come back and watch it because it's you. You want your audience to come back for you. You don't want a touch and go audience. They just come, get what they want, and leave. You want to keep them coming back. Friendship analogy. You don't want those friends, toxic friends who are just here for your money. So be a character, play a character, put your personality into the videos. That's one of the biggest pieces of advice I can offer. Okay, so just to wrap up what you said, think about what kind of market you're going to, niche or general, like the generalization, and then most importantly, put personality into your videos. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, all right. So, what time is it? It should. So right now we're going to do a second ad break. All right, and we come back. We will discuss one of the most important. I would say one of the most, if not the most important thing when it comes to jumping into YouTube. What is it? Well, stick around, and when we came back, we'll talk about it more. All right, so stay tuned.
Nak tahu kelajuan peranti pintar dalam 5G? Di MMU ada jawapannya. Nak tahu bagaimana kandungan kreatif dan perniagaan atas talian dikuasai? Di MMU ada jawapannya. Nak tahu bagaimana cyber security dan undang-undang berfungsi? Di MMU ada jawapannya. Semua itu dan banyak lagi ada di Multimedia University kerana MMU ialah anda menerajui masa hadapan digital. Layari mmu.edu.my.
So they do have TikTok. Anyway, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. So before we go into the next section, I saw this question by Dong Asli. He asked about how to generate income from YouTube, and can you explain a little bit about accent, which is perfect because that's the next segment that we're going to talk about, money. How do you make money off YouTube? Which is interesting because I think just by going to YouTube, I heard a lot of ways that you can earn your salary, earn your money from YouTube, which is kind of interesting. So maybe Z can like go through a little bit on how to generally how YouTube make money. How does YouTubers make money?
It's definitely one of the most received questions. Where does the money come from? It's so weird. There's no, what's the product?
Yeah, what's the product? How does
doesn't
Z
grow on
got
trees.
How does ZY got 4 million return access on Google?
Oh, that was really funny, right?
Yeah.
That is not true, by the way. But if you Google me for some reason, there's this page up there that says my net worth is apparently 4 million ringgit or something like that. I had a good laugh when I first saw it. I don't know where they got it from.
Yeah.
But
it would be very funny. It would be very funny if someone saw that page and be like, "Oh, he earned that much," and then the person would jump into YouTube.
Yeah, if I earned that much, well, things will be kind of different. Let's just say. Okay, so where does the money come from? So first of all, when you go to YouTube, you're gonna see everyone's favorite things, ads. That's where all the money is. So ads would appear on our videos. It's through this system called Google AdSense, and internally it's known as the YPP, YouTube Partner Program. And I don't know why that triggered my Google for some reason. Google's listening. But basically, advertisers, they would pay money to have ads appear on videos. And if the ad appears on your video, you get a share of it. It's quite an even split. And there's different rates for different ads, and there's different rates for different videos. Like I mentioned earlier, if you have a very niche channel with a very, very narrow focused target audience, brands might pay extra to put their ads on your videos because it's proven to be more effective. So that's more profitable in a sense. And also it varies by region. Different countries of audience cost different amounts for advertisers to advertise to. So geographical locations is also another factor for how much money you make off of ads on YouTube. So every time someone asks, hey, how much money is 1,000 views worth? It's a very difficult question to answer because there's so many different factors at play that affect that, including time of year as well. Like everything I just mentioned have different rates to them. It really depends on the current market rate. It's like durian.
It's like durian, yes. Yes, that's the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
I know.
Mhm.
I don't know if this is like a legitimate question, but the same person asked, does YouTuber pay tax?
Do YouTubers pay tax? Well, yes. If you make enough, you have to pay tax. It's considered as personal tax. Well, generally, to make things easier, you would register a company, typically a sole proprietorship. But if you want to go big, nobody's stopping you from going Sendirian Berhad. But yeah, you follow normal tax. You follow personal tax laws.
So personal tax laws. So that's the one that needs to be focused
Still money
on.
made.
Yeah. So just now, whatever you said is like AdSense, right? The one that you said is like it's based on ads. Is there any other way for YouTubers to also generate revenue in a sense?
Yes. So the two main ways is, of course, Google AdSense, which is actually the less profitable option. The big money, where is that, is sponsorships. And I think you guys are no strangers to sponsorships. At some point on your time spent on YouTube, you would have heard, today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Today's video is brought to you by Storyblocks Video. Today's video is blah, 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 made possible by this and that. So those are what we call either mid-rolls, pre-rolls, or post-rolls, basically sponsored slots. So people like Squarespace, they would pay the YouTuber an amount of money, and that amount of money would depend on their deal with the YouTuber. Sometimes it depends on how big the YouTuber is. Generally, the more reach you have, or the higher your conversion power, that is how many people actually buy their products after seeing the ad, they might offer you a different rate. But they would basically reach out to you and say, hey, we want to buy. It's kind of like traditional broadcast. I like how full circle everything is. Everything that started in broadcast media gets essentially cancelled in web media, and now it's just coming back. They would go like, hey, I want to buy a 30-second or 45-second slot in your video. It has to be either in the middle of the video or at the end of the video. Sometimes they're priced differently, and I will pay you this amount of money, and by law you are required to say that we're paying you. So that's why always in the beginning of the video they would always say, today's video is brought to you by so and so sponsor. It's actually a legal requirement, because otherwise it would be kind of like you're kind of like cheating the audience. You're taking money from someone and you're recommending them. Like, you have to let them know that it's paid. So there's that. You get the beginning out of the way, and then you integrate it into your content as an ad slot. And those typically pay quite well. There are another kind of sponsorships whereby they would basically outright purchase the whole piece of content, say a particular product that a company wants to market. They will reach out to you and say, hey, let's collaborate on a video on this. And rarely it would be a product review, because paid reviews are ethically gray. Like, you shouldn't take money for an opinion, right? You shouldn't change your opinion because of how much money you receive. So typically it would revolve some sort of project. Either you make an informative video about the product, or you use their product in your video to do something interesting. And that would also pay more than the sponsorship slots, because it's not confined to a 30 or 45-second slot. It's the whole piece of content. So those kind of collaborations generally are a lot of fun, because not only does it pay the bills, you also have more money to spend for the video. Like that amount of money that you receive is essentially the budget for the video. So then you can do something that you would otherwise not try because it would simply cost too much money. Or sometimes a brand like a microphone brand, not too long ago, they sent me one of their microphones for free, and they say, I want to watch you destroy this microphone. I want to see how much torture this microphone can take. So I ended up throwing it into a lake, and that didn't kill it. So I threw it off a 4-story building. But that kind of stuff, it's a pretty expensive microphone. That kind of stuff you wouldn't do on your own. You wouldn't just go and spend like 2,000 ringgit on a microphone just to destroy it brand new, right? So when you work with brands in this sense, it allows for some pretty interesting content. Like in some cases, there might be no money that changes hands. The sponsorship might come in the form of a product. It might be a barter trade, but at the end of the day, it allows for good content, and it's still a sponsorship to some extent.
Yeah,
so that's kind of how things work.
Yeah, so like you're getting something, but at the same time you're also having fun in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a pretty healthy relationship, I would say.
Yeah. All right. Now, okay. So now that's the money part. Now we're gonna go a little bit to our Q&A. I saw a lot of questions.
Oh boy.
A lot of questions. Okay, so let's just ask. Okay, so let me just go through. Okay, so okay, so there's this question from Austin on YouTube. Hi, Austin. What are your thoughts about the fact? What are your thoughts about the fact that most legendary videos on YouTube are kind of like under 1 minute and pretty much random as heck? And how did they get on top of the algorithm? Like, do you have any idea about this? Like, I will usually watch on YouTube and be like, oh, that's like under the minute, and get like millions of views.
And it's usually something extremely random, isn't it?
Yes, like one of the most random things I ever saw. Be like, wait, that shouldn't. Wait, what? And then you got curious and you just entered it.
I think it's a weird phenomenon, and I think it's worth studying, because one of the first things we are told is views generate views. It's
Right.
kind of like that nasi lemak stall. If there's nobody lining up at the stall, nobody's gonna stop by. But if there's like a long line outside a nasi lemak stall, the nasi lemak might be very normal, like nothing interesting about the nasi lemak. But because there's a long line outside, more and more people are gonna line up just to know what the long line is about. So when a video has a lot of views, it gets favored by the algorithm because it's proven that a lot of people watch it. And okay, a question to Austin. You see that video, you see it's viral, you end up watching it anyway, right? So you're basically feeding information to the algorithm saying, this video is worth watching. Recommend it to more people, please. So the only reason that video went viral is because a lot of people are watching it in the first place and they enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
So the reason it's viral is because you're part of the reason it's viral in a sense. And the fact that it's under a minute long means there's a very low commitment to that piece of content. You know it's going to take less than a minute of your time. And you see it has like 200 million views. It has a weird thumbnail. And the title is like some oversimplified order of events. And you're like, I'll give you my 50 seconds.
I'm curious about this. Let's just go.
Exactly.
I saw this comment on YouTube one time that said that if the video is under a minute long and it's about 4 million, 5 million views, you know it's gonna be good. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's jump to the next question. I saw this question by Amma. Wait, hold on. I saw this question on. Yeah, let's go to the next question on Amma Mustaqim on Facebook. Do you have any recommendation for audio and camera setup for beginners? I'm currently using a Canon EOS D500, and the autofocus seems to be the main issue. I feel like this is like your strength.
Okay, I'll try not to go too in depth.
Okay.
I would actually advise something we learn in film school as well. Audio is as important as, if not more important than video. So if you're going to put resources in, if you're going to invest in gear, I would highly recommend not skimping on audio, because bad video with good audio is watchable. But take this for instance, good video with bad audio is almost unwatchable.
Now I feel like you're really in a black void.
Right. It makes sense, because I had a mic that's quite far away and I just switched to that. So don't skimp on your audio equipment. You could always start with something like this, a lavalier microphone, the kind that you clip on to your shirt, or you could get a shotgun microphone like this one that I have just out of frame. It's either one of these two, typically for YouTube. Or if you're doing a lot of talk show style shows, and you will have something like this. It's more for podcasts, actually. There are some pretty not bank-breaking options out there, but for wireless lavalier microphones, generally you have to set aside 600-700 ringgit for a decent set. And for your camera, I think your camera's probably fine for now, because cameras are always a tricky investment, because they're like phones. They get outdated very quickly and they lose their value quite quickly. So if your current camera is not exactly a limitation yet, I would advise rolling with it. It's always nice to have autofocus. It's a huge quality of life improvement. You don't have to worry about too much stuff, and autofocus technology is really great now. Like the one I'm currently using is tracking my eyes right now. So no matter where I move, I'm always in focus. But I started off just like you with cameras with absolutely terrible autofocus and unreliable in video at all. So what would happen is I would make sure I set up my framing. I have my camera on a tripod. Nothing moves. I make sure my chair is on the ground, and I would even tape it to the ground, or like take marks on the ground, so my blocking doesn't move. Sorry, I'm using film terms. My position in frame doesn't move. Then I will take something like a light stand or a stand to just kind of stick in my position. I will walk over to the camera, switch it to manual focus on the stand that represents where I will be, roll the video, make sure it's on manual focus so it doesn't shift again, go back, remove the stand, sit in there, roll like a 10-second test clip, walk back to the camera, cut it, check it, make sure it's in focus, then I record my proper roll. It's quite tedious, but I've probably done it hundreds of times and it's never became a problem.
So it's already like you kind of get used to the system and you just do it anyway.
Yeah, very much.
Okay, I got this question from, I think it's from outside. It's not from Facebook or YouTube, but there's a really weird question about how to make our videos as clickbait videos, which is interesting because like you wanted to purposefully make your videos as clickbait. So I really want to hear your take on it. Like, do you think clickbait is essential when it comes to like YouTube videos?
Okay, here's the thing. Everybody hates clickbait, but
Yeah.
it's necessary. You have to clickbait.
Mhm.
And one very important thing, again, one of the grand things to know for YouTube is your title and thumbnail are as important as the actual video itself. You can have the best piece of content, but because your title and thumbnail were not intriguing enough, nobody clicks into it and sees how awesome your content is. So here's the thing, how to clickbait, right? Depends on the kind of video, actually. Typically, for those viral videos, the clickbait is typically a oversimplification of events. Like, you oversimplify it in an almost hilarious way. Like, for the mic video, I toss a 2,000 ringgit mic into a lake, and it still works. Something along the lines of that.
It still works. Now I'm hooked.
Or take a movie, for example. If you were to if you were to clickbait Avengers Endgame, it would be like beheading purple monster.
Big Purple Man did what?
Big
Purple Man did what to the Avengers? You won't believe.
Purple giant snaps his finger. What happens next is incredible.
Bracket, very sad, close bracket.
But for product reviews, we always try to like hinge. We try to get the audience to ask questions. Back to conflict and problems in storytelling. If your title, your clickbaity title, is able to get the audience to ask questions, like it plants a question in their brain, and they have to watch your video to find out. That's an effective clickbait. Your thumbnail should also complement it in some sense, because traditionally what we would do is we would just kind of repeat the title in the thumbnail. But what I've learned is it's kind of redundant to have the same information in the thumbnail and in the title. So come up with a title and then put something in the thumbnail that supplements the title, like gives it just a tiny bit more context. And that would really just add to the effect of this so-called clickbait. And many times, including for my product reviews, I would begin with a title and a thumbnail before I have my content. I would think of a title and a thumbnail, and I would structure the content based off of that, because it gives you a clearer direction. There are exceptions. Sometimes I have an idea for a great piece of content and the title and thumbnail come absolutely last. But if you suddenly have an idea for a title and thumbnail that you think could work out and could lead to a pretty interesting piece of content, then it's perfectly fine to start with a title and thumbnail. Now, the most important thing is you are allowed to clickbait, but it's so important to deliver on that clickbait. Make sure you deliver on it. Don't just clickbait and have a piece of content that just wastes everyone's time. Make sure you live up to that clickbait. It's like, everybody hates clickbait, right? It's so overly sensational, but they will forgive you if your content is actually good. It's like an ad. Like if you see an advertisement on TV and it's like just completely ridiculous, but you try their product and the product's actually amazing, you would probably not hold that ad against them. That ad ultimately led you to try their product and you don't regret it. Don't make them regret clicking onto your video, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
So basically, you have a title, and then you have a visual aid that is your thumbnail to support your title, and then, make sure that your content is good enough so that they will like forgive your clickbait action, I would say.
Yes, and plants a question in their brain that they have to watch your video to find out.
So it's like kind of like kind of like engage them with the level. It's like, you want to know the answer, you just gotta watch it. Yeah. Okay. So since at that time, I think I'm just gonna accept 2 more questions, I would say. Okay. So a question that I got just now that said, again by Don Asley, hi. What would YouTube look like in the future? And does YouTuber can be a long-lasting career from your opinion?
Well, I think probably short answer is probably not. You have to be very adaptive. You can see YouTube themselves are trying very hard to adapt. Like you guys have probably seen YouTube Shorts. Like that was unthinkable back then. It all started with stories, and then it went into TikTok, and now TikTok is kind of like the main billboard of social media now. And you can see YouTube Shorts is very much inspired by TikTok. So everyone's trying to adapt into what works, what the audience is into. And because the audience is constantly changing, the same format will not work long term. Like I mentioned, back in the days, subscriptions was a big thing. On demand, people would actively search for their content. Nowadays, we like being served content. So who knows what's going to change? The algorithm's constantly changing. Being a YouTuber as a long-term job, I don't think so, but you can make it long-term by, well, because the term YouTuber kind of confines you to the platform of YouTube. So if you ride the wave now and use this exposure on YouTube to build a brand for yourself, to build a personality for yourself, that even after people forget YouTube, they don't forget you. That was a weird slogan, but
yeah, right. They forget the tube, but they won't forget
they
the
forget the
you.
tube, but they make sure they don't forget you. That's why it's important to have your presence strong on YouTube. So the platform might change, but whatever it shifts to next, make sure you are on that ship. Make sure you have a ticket to that.
Right.
So YouTube in the future, I honestly don't quite know. I don't think it would evolve that much from where it is now. Like the way people upload pieces of packaged videos onto YouTube is probably not going to change, but it's going to have a lot of additional things that fall in, like YouTube Shorts, short form content.
Right, because right now, again, short form content is like on the wave right now.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, and then the lack of attention that just makes it even more better for them to consume, I would say.
Our visual literacy is increasing and our attention span is shortening.
What's happening? Right. Okay, so I think I would just go to on the last question. I'm sorry if we can't get any any more questions. I got a lot of questions, but because of time restraints, we can only get one or two more. So I got this question that says, what are your 3 key messages to do videos on YouTube? Let me elaborate on that. So if you can just boil down on, what you wanted to tell when it comes to making videos on YouTube into 3 simple, make it into like a 3 simple list. Like, okay. How would you put it?
3, if there's only 3 things I can give advice on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's start with audience. Know your audience, identify your audience, who you make it for, which country, is it confined to Malaysia or do you plan to go international? That would affect what language you deliver in. That would also affect the amount of ad money you make from, say, YouTube AdSense. And it will also affect the kind of brands you get to work with. So know your audience, who you're going to make it for, where is your audience? Is it a niche topic or is it a very wide general topic? Second thing is, well, your content, your title and your thumbnail is extremely important. I cannot emphasize that enough. And, well, just be a good visual storyteller on YouTube. Create content that is rich in story. Title and thumbnail, deliver for that with great content. Clickbait and deliver on the promise of your clickbait. And number 3 is really just working with people. There will be a point where you will start working with brands. You will sometimes pitch to brands, but more often than not on a YouTuber's journey, you get approached by brands most of the time. Chances are brands will come and find you before you come and find them. Some of them just want to take advantage of you. They're quite easy to spot, but a lot of them are actually incredibly pleasant to work with. Now, as with everything in the world, pretty much business and everything, it's all about benefits. But at the end of the day, remember, we're all human. And when you're dealing with even these big international brands, all of them, they're just human beings. So just treat each other like a decent human being. Don't be overly concerned or nervous or try to put on that overly formal. Just be confident in yourself, and like this conversation we're having right now, just treat each other like a human being and you'll probably be just fine. There are really cool people out there. Most of the people you'll be dealing with, they're working in marketing and PR, and if they've landed themselves a position in that job, they're probably a really cool people to begin with. So remember, at the end of the day, we're all human.
Right. I would just assume our interaction will be like, good day, sir. Just like making
Good
it
days, and a pleasure to be on today's live stream.
It's an honor to be here. Yeah, I would just assume that. But yeah, I like the fact that, you know, this last question kind of wraps up the whole live stream. That's kind of like what we've been talking about, and
Yeah.
this is like a nice, like a little tie that we have. Yeah. So I think that will be that's about it. This is the live stream. I think if you have any more questions, I don't know if ZY can answer them on Facebook or on YouTube.
Just drop it all in the comments. I'll go through them one round, and I'll try and linger on anything.
Yeah, if we miss them, then you know he will comment on it. Yeah. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Z, and thank you to you for watching this content.
Yeah, if you stayed the whole way, the whole hour plus, you are amazing.
You will be a YouTuber.
Special shout out to you. You stayed for the
Special
whole
shout
thing.
out.
You're amazing.
You will get a star. You'll get NFTs. I don't know. Yeah.
A
Okay.
virtual cookie.
Yeah, virtual cookie. Yeah. So that's about it. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.